We are doing the YSS lowering shock. This one is 280 millimeters, so it should lower the Navi pretty decently. We are pretty much at exactly 34 inches from the ground to the back of this rack. Took the rear fender off. That wasn't necessary, but I wanted as much room as possible. All right, the tools we're gonna be using for this install. I have a big ass pry bar from Harbor Freight. I think this is like a 48-inch pry bar. I have a 1/2-inch ratchet. I have a 1/2-inch, I think it's a 6-inch extension. I have a 1/2-inch 12mm socket, and then I have a 1/2-inch drive 14mm socket. Other than that, the only other tool you need is whatever you want to use if you want to take the fender off, and a tape measure to do the before and after measurements of installing this aftermarket shock. Next thing to do is just 2 bolts, one at the top, one at the bottom. This one's a 14, that one appears to be a 12. All right, I'm gonna use this big ass pry bar. You could probably use a 2x4 if you don't have a big ass pry bar, but I'm gonna use that to get this little bolt out, and to drop the back end down, I'm just gonna leave it right there. All right, so here's the side-by-side comparison. We have the stock one right here, the new YSS brand one there. Let's do a little, let's measure from eyelet to eyelet. It is 12.5 inches. I know these are in millimeters when you buy them, but for the sake of this, we'll just call it 12.5 inches from eyelet to eyelet. The new one is 11 inches eyelet to eyelet. So that is 1.5 inches shorter. And then obviously when you sit on it, it's gonna go even a little shorter yet. So we'll see how it looks. All right, here's the fun parts. We have to get this part up to this clevis here. Let's see if I can do it with the pry bar. I might have to get the pry bar a little more underneath. Nice, perfect. So I'm just using the pry bar and I'm just wiggling it up and down until the bolt goes through. And like I said, if you don't have a big pry bar, I think this is like a 48-inch pry bar. They are at Harbor Freight for, I don't know, not a lot of money. But if you don't have one, I'm sure you could probably use a 2x4 or even wedge your foot underneath. Let me see if I can get this bolt started. This is kind of annoying. This is in the way. You can move it though. Not really sure what the torque spec is, so I'm just gonna go good and tight. Alrighty, let's take a new measurement now that we got the new shock on. We are at 32 inches basically on the dot. It's like 2 inches lower for a shock that's 1.5 inches shorter. So as far as how the shock feels driving down the road, I think it feels great. It is a night and day difference between stock and this aftermarket shock. As far as the aftermarket one goes, it's, gosh, how do I describe it? It's like way smoother. It's not like it's necessarily like a cushiony ride. I mean, don't get me wrong, the ride is very soft. Harsh bumps are no longer harsh bumps. What used to kind of jar your spine now just kind of feels like you're going over a bump. It almost feels like it compresses quick and then slow to kind of soften it. And then for some reason you don't even notice the rebound. It's kind of a crazy experience, to be honest. Maybe it's because I was so used to the stock shock. Gosh, I got probably 200 and some miles on my Navi at this point. So I have 200 and some miles on my OEM shock. After putting on the new shock, it totally feels like a different bike. It almost feels a little more darty, if that's a word. When you lean in and when you turn on the curves, it seems way more nimble. Like it used to take significantly more effort to lean into the bike on the turns. Now with this new shock, and I'm assuming it's probably because the center of gravity is now a little lower, being that the bike is dropped 2 inches, possibly even more once I'm sitting on the bike. The weight of my body is pushing it down even more. So I think that center of gravity kind of affects it and how it kind of leans into the corners. Not necessarily a bad thing. For me personally, it's going to take a little bit more adjustment. I usually take the same routes to work and whatnot, so I kind of know what speed to hit what corners and whatnot in the quiet neighborhoods I go through. So it's going to take a little bit of adjustment to kind of get used to the new shock, but overall, definitely an improvement. Absolutely no regrets. 100% you should get one. There's a very good reason why I went with the YSS shock rather than any of these other eBay, Amazon, AliExpress, and simply because it's an important component, okay? I don't mind getting LED lights, hand grips, mirrors, things like that off of eBay or AliExpress or Amazon, but when it comes to like a crucial suspension component, I'm not getting the cheapest one out there. That's not the time to be like, oh, I was thrifty, I spent $20 on this shock. It came in a 2-pack, whatever, oh, if one blows, I'll just grab the other one from the 2-pack and put that on. That's not a risk I'm willing to take. This is a performance part. If it breaks or something happens, there's gonna be real consequences to it. So for that reason, something like a shock, in my opinion, although I'm sure a lot of you have good luck out there, but a shock, in my opinion, is something where you get something a little more quality, not just this random crap off of eBay and AliExpress. So I'm about 6 foot tall, and I never had a problem with flat footing the Navi. My wife, however, she is 5'3", so this new shock, being essentially 1.5 inches shorter, once it's actually on the bike, comes out to 2 inches shorter. This is a total game changer from her. She went from being her heel probably 5 inches off of the ground to now almost flat footing. She's probably, as you saw in the video, she's probably about this far away from the ground on her back heel. Gives her, she doesn't know how to ride a motorcycle, so this gives her a lot more confidence when trying to learn that if she has to come to a quick stop or if she wants to just come to a stop in general, she can put her feet down and flat foot the bike and not have to worry about standing on her tiptoes. So if you are a short rider, specifically 5'3" and above, I can definitely vouch for the fact that this shock is going to help you. There are shocks that go lower. However, there is a concern with how you're able to access the keyhole to pop the seat. When you lower the Navi too much, that ends up getting covered and you can't put the key in. So you're kind of walking a fine line there on how low do you really want to go if you are a short rider, outside of, like modifying the seat and whatnot. So I can tell you this YSS shock is definitely short person approved. This shock was about 80 bucks. I'll post a link in the description or the comment section down below of the one I got. So thank you guys for watching this episode. I will see you on the next one.